Okay, so this is the part 2 of a pictorial biography of Sakyamuni Buddha. I completed till page number 15 in part 1. Now this is page number 16. Beautiful pictures are given. You can get this book. Its cover is this. I have already discussed the details in the previous video. So, okay, so let's continue. Since every one of his teachers was an expert in his field, Prince Siddhartha completed all his studies with ease and thoroughness. When speed of progress and level of accomplishment were considered, his superiority over all the other princes was apparent. People, including his teachers, father, and aunt, were really surprised to see that Prince Siddhartha really had no difficulty at all in learning anything. Once any skill or knowledge was demonstrated or expounded, he immediately understood, remembered, and never forgot it. Even though Prince Siddhartha was such a clever pupil and at the same time the crown prince, the heir to the throne, he never neglected to treat his teachers with manners and all due respect. For the prince believed that only through the instruction from teachers could men acquire knowledge of very great value. Besides, the nature of the prince was such that he treated everyone with equal geniality and politeness. Prince Siddhartha's accomplishment in physical skill was no less than his virtue in conduct and deportment. Besides being genial and polite, the prince was also very courageous. He never feared or hesitated when competing with other boys in various skills. During that time, all males of the royal tribe were educated to become gallant knights. The prince, since his early youth, had been trained to be a kind and brave knight, and he was also able to drive a chariot very skillfully. There was a chariot race which the prince had won against the toughest rival in the country. Although a competition of this sort required that the participants struggle very hard for victory, yet the prince treated his horse gently. The horse, in return, also exerted its full strength and with all its mighty helped the prince to become the victor, for the horse too felt that the prince should be the only winner, not a loser. The prince was gentle not only to his own horse, but he was kind also to all other animals. Being a crown prince, Siddhartha had never encountered suffering and misery in his life, but his sympathetic nature made him aware that all creatures, whether people or animals, equally desire happiness and detest suffering and pain. At the age of 8, the prince began to show in his conduct a particularly merciful nature. In any place and on whatever occasion, he avoided doing anything harmful to any creature. On the contrary, he tried to succor any suffering creature. For example, one day the prince saw one of his attendants beating a snake with a rod. He immediately stopped the attendant, exhorting him not to beat it. One day, Prince Siddhartha was playing with his companions in the palace garden. Many of his young companions were also playing there. Among them was Prince Devadatta, a cousin of Prince Siddhartha, whose personal character was entirely different from the prince's. Prince Siddhartha was genial and polite, and his heart was full of mercy and benevolence. He never oppressed others, but often helped the oppressed. Prince Devadatta was cruel and jealous and fond of killing. This day, this day Devadatta was carrying his bow and arrows, shooting the flying swans for fun. One swan was shot in the wing and fell to the ground. It was badly wounded and appeared to be in much pain. Siddhartha quickly ran up to the swan, which he picked up. Removing the arrow from its wing, he wrapped the wound with cool leaves to stop the blood and softly patted its body. Devadatta angrily stepped over to him, intending to snatch the swan, at the same time yelling at Siddhartha, demanding that he return the bird to him. Under no conditions Under no conditions would Prince Siddhartha return the wounded bird to him. He said if the bird had died, it would probably belong to the shooter, but as long as it is still alive, it naturally belongs to the saver. But Prince Devadatta insisted, I shot the bird down, so it belongs to me. Finally, Prince Siddhartha suggested, let the scholars of the country settle this argument at conference. Prince Devadatta agreed to this. On the day when the scholars were to gather and confer on various matters, there was plenty of dispute about the problem of the swan. They all had different opinions. Some said the bird should belong to the Prince Siddhartha because he had saved its life. Some, on the contrary, believed that Prince Devadatta should have the bird because he had brought it down. Everyone seemed to have his own reason for choosing one point of view or another. Finally, a young scholar stood up, loudly proclaiming, all living creatures belong to those who save or guard their lives, not to those who damage their lives. In fact, this wounded bird shall belong to its savior, that is, to Prince Siddhartha. The conferring scholars all accepted the statement made by their young colleague, unanimously deciding that the bird belonged to Prince Siddhartha, for he was the one who had saved its life. So Prince Siddhartha carefully nursed the swan until its wound had completely healed. Then he set the bird free to fly back to the forest to live a free and pleasant life among its own kind. From that day, Prince Devadatta began to hate Prince Siddhartha and intended secretly to plot against him. Enough for today. Good night.